Stop, forget the Hollywood cliches. Forget the sensationalized, fear-mongering narratives. Let's unveil what lies behind the myths of voodoo and Orisha. What truths are hidden beneath these ancient stories? Because behind the myths of voodoo and black magic lies a spiritual universe of breathtaking complexity. A world order established not by chaos, but by divine logic. Let's begin by dispelling two of the biggest myths that have long clouded the truth of Orisha and voodoo traditions. Contrary to popular belief, these systems are not centered on curses or malice. In reality, the vast majority of practice is devoted to healing, guidance, and the support of community. The spiritual laws are unyielding. Any negative action returns to the one who sends it. Arbitrary, malicious magic is not celebrated. What is honored is alignment with destiny and the pursuit of ethical balance. What truth is hidden beneath the stories of the Orisha and the Loa? What happens when we look past the colonial veil and see the original wisdom of West Africa? Today we're embarking on a journey into the heart of voodoo and Orisha cosmology. We'll peel back the layers of misunderstanding, reveal their true origins, explore the powerful concept of ash, and show you exactly how these ancient systems work to maintain balance in a turbulent world. This is not about fear. This is about power, connection, and spiritual science. To understand these faiths, we must travel back to the source, West Africa, specifically, the spiritual cradle of the Yoruba people, spanning modern-day Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. Here, the Yoruba developed a profound understanding of the universe. At the top is Olodumare, the supreme creator, often considered too vast to be directly worshipped. Below Olodumare are the Orishas, powerful primordial spirits, emanations of the divine who govern the forces of nature and human endeavor. Central to this worldview are two things: ancestors, Egungun, who remain active members of the community, and the concept of ash, pronounced ashe. Ash isn't just power, it's the sacred animating force, the divine energy that enables creation, gives life to existence, and allows things to manifest. It's what empowers the Orisha, the ancestors, and the rituals. The spiritual traditions now known globally as Haitian Voodoo and the various Orisha religions, such as Cuban Lucumi, Santeria, and Brazilian Candomblé, represent highly sophisticated, adaptive religious systems rooted in the shared cultural and metaphysical landscape of West Africa. While the diasporic expressions developed independently under vastly different colonial regimes, their theological grammar shares a common origin, tracing back thousands of years. Understanding the subtle shifts that occurred between the ancestral African traditions and their New World manifestations is essential to establishing a nuanced comparison of their cosmologies. The foundation for both Voodoo and Orisha worship resides in the indigenous spiritual practices of contiguous West African ethnic groups. The core theological framework of Voodoo, known as Vodun or Vodun, Voodoo, Vodun, originates primarily among the Fon, Gun, Mina, and Yu peoples, spanning modern-day Benin, Togo, Ghana, and Nigeria. Simultaneously, the Orisha tradition, often referred to as Sezilagba, the traditional Yoruba religion, is rooted in the spiritual concepts and practices of the Yoruba people in southwestern Nigeria and southern Benin. Anthropological evidence indicates a shared cultural heritage and common migration trajectories among the Fon, Yu, and Yoruba. This physical proximity in West Africa resulted in significant spiritual overlap. Importantly, the fundamental division between these ancestral faiths in Africa was often more linguistic and regional than cosmological. Scholars note that the Ewe, Fon, and Bini, Edo peoples, while distinct from the Yoruba, also venerated the same foundational entities, referring to them as Voduns. The very word Vodun means spirit or god in the Fon and Yu languages. Therefore, the West African spiritual landscape was characterized by a fundamental, shared metaphysical framework that utilized different terminology for equivalent spiritual forces. This historical continuum, where the concepts of Vodun and Orisha parallel each other, establishes a crucial common starting point for the subsequent New World traditions. The transatlantic slave trade served as the engine of dispersal, transporting millions of enslaved Africans who carried their religious systems to the Americas and the Caribbean. These spiritual traditions became mechanisms of cultural survival and, critically, instruments of political resistance. Haitian Voodoo developed in the French colony of Saint-Domingue, Haiti, between the 16th and 19th centuries. Its structure emerged from the forced mixing or creolization of numerous West and Central African traditions, prominently including the Fon, Yoruba, and Congo peoples. The Vodou system, through ceremonies like Bois Caiman, played a seminal role in uniting the enslaved population, supplying the spiritual power and collective identity necessary to ignite and sustain the Haitian Revolution, ultimately leading to the world's first free Black republic. In contrast, the Orisha traditions flourished in other parts of the New World, notably in Cuba, Santeria or Regla de Ocha Lucumi, and Brazil, Candomblé. A significant distinction emerged in Cuba based on colonial administrative categorization. Enslaved Yu and Fon individuals arriving in Cuba were often labeled Arara by slave traders, a geographical descriptor that solidified into an ethnonym, separating them from the Yoruba-descended Lucumi. This colonial administrative impulse inadvertently contributed to the formal separation of the diasporic traditions, while Haitian Vodou integrated Congo, Fon, and Yoruba elements into a singular cohesive system with distinct Nanshan within it. Cuban traditions often maintained a clearer, though still syncretic, distinction between the Yoruba-derived Orisha worship and the Fon-derived Arara worship. The horrific transatlantic slave trade was a cataclysmic attempt to sever these spiritual ties. Millions of people, including Yoruba, Fon, and Congo peoples, were violently uprooted and scattered across the Americas, but their spiritual fire couldn't be extinguished. In the hell of the plantations, these cosmologies didn't die. They adapted and merged. In places like Cuba, Yoruba traditions flourished as Santeria or Lucumi. In Haiti, traditions from multiple West African groups consolidated into Vodou. Note the proper spelling. The Haitian Vodou we're discussing today. These are not carbon copies, but spiritual cousins united by their root concepts. To survive, practitioners often hid their Orisha and Loa behind Catholic saints, a process called syncretism. The Orisha of war, Ogun, might be masked by St. Peter, the spirit of the seas, Yamaya, by the Virgin Mary. Simultaneously, colonial powers weaponized fear and racism, deliberately reframing these complex spiritual systems as primitive, evil sorcery, a propaganda campaign designed to control and justify slavery. This is the birth of the most persistent misconception. The word voodoo became a shorthand for curses, zombies, and pin-stuck dolls. The truth is, these are highly sophisticated, ethical, and holistic religions focused on community, healing, and personal destiny. The sensationalized movie version is a lie. Let's clarify the terms. Orisha are the primary deities of the Yoruba-based faiths, Santeria, Ifa, Candomblé. Vodou is the faith of Haiti, where the divine forces are known as Loa or Lwa. While they govern similar domains, war, love, water, they come from distinct cultural streams that converged in the New World. They are spiritually separate, yet their underlying cosmic logic is one. Both the Orisha and the Loa act as spiritual intermediaries. They aren't abstract concepts. They have distinct personalities, favorite foods, temperaments, and colors. They are forces we can establish a relationship with, and their influence guides us toward our potential. The true engine of these systems is the law of reciprocity and balance. Everything is connected. When your life is out of alignment with your destiny, with nature, or with your ancestors, there is imbalance. The goal of ritual is to restore that balance and align yourself with the flow of ash. Rituals, offerings, and sacrifices are not simply bribes. They are transactions of energy. You offer a small amount of energy, like a prayer, a song, or a small gift, to feed the spiritual forces, and in return, that spiritual force acts as a conductor to help bring your life back into harmony. It's a spiritual economy of give and take. Let's dispel the two biggest myths right now. The vast majority of time spent in these traditions is dedicated to healing, counsel, and community support. The spiritual laws are clear. Negative actions rebound on the practitioner. The concept of arbitrary, malicious magic is minimized in favor of destiny and ethical alignment. The real truth is the profound connection these faiths offer between the individual and the forces that govern the universe. The Yoruba term Orisha, refers to divine spirits, often primordial divinities, deified ancestors, or personified natural forces. They are explicitly regarded as powerful entities tasked by the Supreme Creator, Olodumare, to assist humanity. In Haitian Vodou, the primary intermediaries are known as Lwa or Loa. While the Elwa are acknowledged to be akin to the Orishas in function and origin, a critical theological point is maintained in the diaspora. Elwa are generally classified as spirits or invisibles, not deities. They are understood as forces created by Bandi, God, specifically to assist the living in their daily affairs. This subtle linguistic and theological differentiation may stem from the deep integration of Vodou with Catholicism, where defining the Elwa as spirits reinforces the transcendent, singular authority of Bandi. This semantic shift underscores Vodou's theological autonomy and its specific adaptation to a monotheistic overlay, even as the function of the Elwa remains identical to that of the Orishas, governing earthly issues and mediating between the transcendent and the mundane. A central shared feature of both cosmologies is the dual nature of reality: the visible, mundane world of human experience and the invisible divine realm where the ultimate sources of power reside. This structural dichotomy provides the metaphysical roadmap for all ritual action and ethical engagement. In both systems, the cosmos is governed by a distant, transcendent creator. The Yoruba religion posits Olodumare, sometimes called Olorin, as the supreme being, the ultimate source of existence and the owner of the sky. Olodumare is generally regarded as too distant or transcendent to be bothered with mundane affairs. Consequently, no shrines are built, and offerings are not made directly to Olodumare. Instead, the Yoruba worship the Orisa who intercede on their behalf. The spiritual system of the Fanyu, the ancestor of Vodou, operates similarly, centered around the dual cosmological principle of Nana Buluku, the God creator. Nana Buluku is defined as the cosmogonical principle who does not trifle with the mundane. Haitian Vodou maintains this principle through Bandi, meaning good God, often equated with the Christian God. Bandi is the transcendent creator divinity who created the universe and the spirits below him. As in the Orisha tradition, the primary focus of devotion and ritual action in Vodou is directed toward the intermediary spirits, the Elwa. The universal acceptance of a distant, unworshipable creator across these traditions signifies a shared philosophical understanding of ultimate causation. This hierarchical structure concentrates ritual focus on the pragmatic, immediate needs of humanity, placing the burden of governing earthly issues entirely upon the intermediary spiritual entities. Yoruba cosmology divides existence into two distinct but interconnected spheres, i.e. the visible world of the living and Arun, the invisible spiritual realm. Asrun is the dwelling place of the Orisa, the ancestors, Egungun, and various other spirits. The Orisa themselves are said to have originated in Rune, and in many myths became Irun Mole, divine beings incarnated as humans, who lived on Aye before returning to the spiritual world. This fluid movement between realms establishes a critical theological precedent. The divine and the human are linked through shared history and spiritual power. Furthermore, the structure of Arun emphasizes the continuum of spiritual power linking historical human ancestors to primordial divine forces. The Orishas are sometimes viewed as the ultimate ancestors. Proper veneration of the deceased, particularly more recently deceased family members, is vital for ensuring blessings and success in Aye. The spiritual world is thus not just a distant heaven, but a contiguous reality actively influencing the physical world. Haitian Vodou's spiritual homeland is known as Guinéen. Guinéen functions as the spiritual equivalent of Rune, a mythic cosmic Africa where the Elwa, the invisibles, Anvisib, and the spirits of the dead reside. Guinéen is a concept layered with both geographical and spiritual meaning, often referred to as they, Yo, to signify both the place and the multitude of spirits that populate it. It represents the ancestral and religious roots of the Vodou practitioner, promising rest, immortality, and deification in the afterlife. The concept of the soul in Vodou further links the physical body to Guinéen. The soul is generally described as having multiple components, including the Gros Bon Ange, Great Guardian Angel, life force, and the Petit Bon Ange, Little Guardian Angel, personality. Upon death, the Gros Bon Ange must be ritually separated, disunen, and is believed to unite with the Elwa in Guinéen, a process essential for the immortality of the individual spirit and the communal well-being. If the ritual is incomplete, the Gros Bon Ange could become trapped on Earth, causing misfortune. The concept of Ginen takes on powerful socio-historical significance. As a mythic African homeland, it reinforces a spiritual connection to a lost continent and serves as a powerful symbol of cultural and political resistance, solidifying Vodou as an African-based philosophy during the colonial era. Now let's dispel the two biggest myths right now. The vast majority of time spent in these traditions is dedicated to healing, counsel, and community support. The spiritual laws are clear. Negative actions rebound on the practitioner. The concept of arbitrary malicious magic is minimized in favor of destiny and ethical alignment. The real truth is the profound connection these faiths offer between the individual and the forces that govern the universe. Devotees form deep personal relationships with their patron Orisha or Loa, seeking their counsel, energy, and influence to navigate life's challenges. They are models for human behavior and divine power. The deeper truth is this: these faiths connect the individual to the vast forces that govern the universe. They are living bridges between the seen and unseen, between human beings and divine order. Consider the story of Oshun. Legend says that when the world was created, the male Orisha, masculine gender, struggled to organize it. Ocean, feminine gender, feeling ignored, withdrew her feminine energy, bringing barrenness and chaos. Only when the men humbled themselves and begged for her return did the world's processes, fertility, life, and flow begin again. This is a story about the absolute necessity of balance and respect for the feminine divine. The core mechanics of these faiths involve structured initiation ceremonies, which create a deep, permanent bond between the individual and the spirits. Offerings, like fruit, liquor, or flowers, and yes, some sacrifice, always performed by a trained priest. This to their faith is the highest acts of reciprocity. They are not random violence, but a profound exchange of life force, ash, to maintain cosmic order and secure blessings. Initiation is the sacred doorway, a step into a community of responsibility, service, and protection. Offerings and sacrifices are acts of exchange, gestures that maintain harmony between spirit and matter. Divination guides the seeker, revealing the hidden patterns of life. Trance and spirit possession are not frightening spectacles, but sacred unions where divine presence speaks through human vessels. Music, drums, dance, and sacred languages all play their role not as performance but as spiritual technology, opening gates between realms. Through healing, mediation, and intercession, these practices restore balance where imbalance has taken root. Today we witness a revival, a return to ancestral paths and reclaimed identity. Yet alongside renewal come challenges. Misuse, sensationalism, and cultural appropriation distort what is sacred. Misunderstandings persist, fueled by fear and prejudice. But listen to the voices of practitioners themselves, who tell a different story. One of devotion, healing, dignity, and continuity with ancestors. What do these traditions teach us? They remind us of the sacred relationship between humanity, nature, and spirit. They offer a holistic worldview, where life is not separated into fragments but woven into a single fabric of meaning. They challenge the narrow vision of modern rationalism by affirming that the invisible is just as real as the visible. Most of all, they call us to honor balance, reciprocity, and community, values the world urgently needs. The challenge remains misappropriation. When outsiders treat these systems as a casual trend or focus only on sensationalized negative aspects, it strips the faiths of their ethical depth. These are complex, demanding, and sacred traditions, not a toolkit for quick-fix magic. Some approach these sacred systems as though they were costumes to be worn, trends to be displayed, or curiosities to be exploited. When the focus is placed only on sensationalized images of dolls, curses, or theatrical rituals, the ethical depth at the heart of these traditions is erased. These are complex, demanding, and sacred ways of life that require discipline, humility, and service. To trivialize them is not just disrespectful, it breaks the link between the practice and the ancestral wisdom that sustains it. Think of it this way: taking fragments of ritual without understanding their meaning is like tearing pages out of a sacred book and using them as decoration. The form may remain, but the spirit is lost. For practitioners, these systems are not a game. They are living covenants with forces of nature, with ancestors, and with the divine order. They shape character, guide decision-making, and demand accountability. Respect, then, becomes the key. Respect for the communities that carry these traditions forward. Respect for the elders who preserve the knowledge. respect for the spirits themselves whose presence is not to be mocked or minimized. To honor Orisha and Voodoo is to recognize them as full spiritual systems, profound, ethical, and deeply human, not as cultural ornaments or entertainment. Yet as understanding grows, so does respect. These traditions are entering interfaith dialogues, demanding to be recognized for their philosophical maturity and ancient wisdom, challenging the monopoly of Western religious narratives. Amidst the noise of modern life, these ancient systems still whisper three timeless truths. First, a deep spiritual ecology. The earth is not an object to be conquered, but a living, breathing presence alive with Orisha. Rivers, mountains, winds, and forests are not mere resources. They are sacred beings, guardians, and teachers. To honor them is to remember that our survival is woven into theirs. Second, ancestor reverence. In a world that often forgets its roots, these traditions remind us that the past is never gone. The wisdom of those who came before is not buried, but alive, waiting to guide us. To pour libation, to call a name, to honor a legacy, these are acts that keep the chain of memory unbroken. In remembering them, we remember ourselves. Third, the power of community. Here, the self is never isolated. Healing is not a solitary act, but a shared responsibility. The wellness of one is bound to the wellness of all. For no spirit, no soul, and no destiny exists apart from the collective. To serve the community is to serve the divine. Together, these three lessons form a compass for the modern world. Respect for earth as sacred, reverence for the ancestors as guides, and devotion to community as the foundation of true well-being. They are not relics of a bygone era, but remedies for the fractures of our time, reminding us of who we are, where we come from, and how we might yet walk in balance with all creation. At the heart of these traditions lies a holistic worldview, the knowing that the spiritual and the material are not divided, but two sides of the same coin. There's no split between what we call sacred and what we call ordinary. The food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, all are imbued with spirit. The Orisha speak through rivers and storms, but also through our own heartbeat, through the quiet breath that sustains us each moment. In this vision, the health of the body cannot be torn apart from the health of the soul, and the soul cannot be severed from the health of the environment. Illness in one realm echoes in the others. When a river is poisoned, the people who drink from it suffer. When a community fractures, the spirits mourn. Healing, then, must be total, restoring not only flesh but spirit, and not only spirit but the land itself. This is not philosophy for abstraction. It is a lived reality. To sweep the floor of the shrine, to plant a tree, to share food with the hungry, each is an act of worship, each is a prayer embodied. In this holistic vision, the world is not a puzzle of separate pieces, but a single fabric woven of body, soul, and earth. To honor one is to honor all. This narrative directly challenged modern rationalism and reductionism by saying, not everything can be measured or quantified. There is a living, active, energetic world of spirit that influences our lives, and the path to fulfillment lies in acknowledging and balancing that reality. The vision forward is one of decolonization. It is the recognition that, despite centuries of enslavement, displacement, and deliberate erasure, the wisdom of Orisha and Voodoo endures. These traditions survived the Middle Passage. They survived genocide, suppression, and ridicule. They live because the ancestors carried them in their bones, in their songs, in whispers of prayer uttered beneath the gaze of oppressors. To decolonize is to see this resilience for what it is, sacred defiance. It is to honor the survival of divine knowledge that refused to be silenced. It is to grant these faiths the respect they have always deserved, not as curiosities or folklore, but as full and sovereign spiritual systems. Decolonization is not about looking backward in bitterness. It is about looking forward with clarity, reclaiming dignity, and restoring balance. It is the work of lifting these traditions from the margins where history tried to place them, and acknowledging them as sources of global wisdom. The vision forward is renewal. The vision forward is respect. The vision forward is remembering that what was carried through fire and ocean was never meant only for survival. It was meant to teach the world how to live in harmony again. We started by asking what lies behind the veil. The answer is not simple, but it is clear. A sophisticated, ethical, and vibrant cosmology that sees the divine in every river, every storm, and in every human being. A universe built on ash. If this resonated with you, if you feel a calling, or if you feel drawn to learn more about the Orisha, the Loa, or the wisdom of these ancestral faiths, approach them with humility and deep respect. Seek out reputable, initiated practitioners. Do not consume. Engage and join this community. A profound place for remembrance where spiritual seekers are destined to meet again. Remember, the crossroads are always open. Legba is always listening. The key is to find your balance, live with integrity, and honor the ash that flows through you. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Until next time, Oshun Oju Odu signing out.